The party was perfect. Pink and lavender balloons floated above the backyard, streamers danced in the breeze, and Lily's laughter echoed over the music. She'd just turned 13, and I wanted her to feel celebrated, truly celebrated. After everything this past year had thrown at us, she deserved it. Vanessa brought cupcakes shaped like mini purses and makeup kits. Ethan set up the karaoke machine. Kids were running around with snow cones, and adults sipped wine under the string lights. It felt good, like maybe things were finally steadying. That's when I saw Harold. He wasn't smiling. While everyone else was chatting or filming the kids on their phones, Ethan's dad stood alone near the back porch, watching. Just watching. Our eyes met. He gave me a tiny nod and motioned with his hand. Subtle, but urgent. I slipped away from the kitchen, weaving through guests, past the cooler and the gift table. Harold met me by the side gate, away from everyone's eyes. "Rachel," he said quietly. His voice was low and strained, like he didn't want anyone to overhear. "You need to leave. Right now." I blinked. "What?" He looked over his shoulder before meeting my eyes again. "Please, just trust me, take Lily and go." My heart dropped. "Harold, what are you talking about? Is someone hurt?" He shook his head. "No. But you don't want to stay. Not another minute." There was something in his face. Fear, but also certainty. Harold wasn't the dramatic type. He was reserved, sharp, the kind of man who read entire newspapers every morning and never raised his voice. I'd known him for over a decade, and in all that time he'd never spoken to me like this. "Is it Ethan?" I asked slowly. He didn't answer, just pressed his lips together and said again, "Please, Rachel. Now." I looked back toward the house. Through the window, I could see Ethan talking animatedly with Vanessa. They were laughing, holding wine glasses. The music had changed to one of Lily's favorite songs. From this distance, it looked like the picture of happiness. But suddenly, my stomach twisted. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew enough to trust my gut, and Harold's face said enough. "Okay," I whispered. "Let me grab Lily's coat." Harold touched my arm gently. "Be quiet about it. Just go." I found Lily near the dessert table, giggling with two of her friends about something on a phone screen. "Hey, sweetheart," I said softly. "Come with me, okay?" "Why? The cake's about to—" "I know, baby, but we forgot something at home," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "Just a quick errand. We'll be right back." Lily shrugged. "Okay." I guided her to the front of the house, grabbed my keys from the hook, and waved casually to anyone who looked our way. No one stopped us. No one asked questions. It was just a mom and daughter stepping out for a minute. Once we got in the car, I exhaled. Slowly, deeply. My hands were shaking, just a little. "Mom?" Lily said beside me, buckling her seatbelt. "Is everything okay?" I glanced in the rearview mirror. Ethan and Vanessa were still inside. The party rolled on, unaware. "I don't know," I told her honestly. "But I think Grandpa just saved us from something." We pulled away, and I kept checking the mirror until the house disappeared behind us. What would you have done if someone whispered to you, "Leave right now," at your child's birthday party, with no explanation? Would you have stayed to find out, or trusted your instincts like Rachel? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story already has your heart racing, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next part. I couldn't sleep that night. Lily had gone to bed after asking once more if everything was okay. I gave her a kiss on the forehead and told her yes, even though I had no idea if that was true. I sat on the couch in my robe, holding a cup of tea that had gone cold hours ago. My mind kept replaying Harold's voice. "You need to leave. Right now." It echoed in my head like a warning bell I couldn't shut off. I wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, that Harold had overreacted, that maybe Ethan had planned a surprise for me and Harold mistook it for something sinister. But deep down, I knew better. Looking back, the signs were there, little things I hadn't pieced together until now. Just 2 nights before the party, Ethan came home talking nonstop about some new opportunity. He was buzzing, almost jittery. Something about a real estate syndicate that big players were getting into. He said words like guaranteed yield and passive income like he'd been practicing a pitch. I remember smiling politely and nodding as he went on and on. But when I asked where the capital would come from, his smile faltered for just a second. Then he brushed it off and said, "We'll work it out. Don't worry." I hadn't thought much of it then. Ethan had always been like that. Grand ideas, no groundwork. There was also the wine. Lately, he'd been pouring me a second glass before I'd even finished my first. "You work too hard, babe," he'd say. "Relax, you deserve it." I thought he was just trying to be nice, but now I wasn't so sure. And then there was Vanessa. She'd always been my best friend, or so I believed. But over the last few weeks, her questions had shifted. Subtle at first. "How's business?" she asked casually one day. "You still doing all the hiring decisions yourself?" Or, "What's your plan if you ever want to scale bigger? You thinking of bringing Ethan on as a partner?" At the time, I thought she was just being nosy. Vanessa always liked to involve herself. But when I think about her at the party, the way she hovered near Ethan, the glances they exchanged when they thought no one was looking, it didn't sit right with me. I had brushed it all off. That was my mistake. Because deep down, I wanted to believe they cared. That Ethan would never cross a line with me. That Vanessa would never steer me into something that wasn't in my best interest. But now, with Harold's warning echoing louder by the minute, I couldn't afford to make that mistake again. The company I built, every late night, every deal, every exhausted morning after pulling an all-nighter on a project, was mine. I started it with nothing but a laptop and a second-hand coffee table. And now it was supporting our home, Lily's school, even Ethan's last failed venture. The idea that someone might try to take that from me, it made my stomach turn. I looked down at my cold tea, set it aside, and reached for my phone. No missed calls from Ethan. No texts asking where I went or if Lily and I got home safely. Not even a, "Thanks for making the party great." That said enough, didn't it? I walked quietly into my home office and opened my laptop. For the first time in a long while, I didn't go to work emails or design drafts. I opened a new folder. I labeled it, "Important." Then I sat there staring at the screen for a moment. Something had changed in me. I didn't have proof yet. I didn't have details. But I had instincts. And for once, I was done ignoring them. The next morning, just after Lily left for school, there was a knock at my front door. I opened it to find Harold standing there, hands in his coat pockets, eyes steady. "Can I come in?" he asked. I nodded and stepped aside. We sat at the kitchen table. I made coffee out of habit, even though neither of us really touched it. The silence between us was thick. I could feel something coming. Something heavy. "I owe you an explanation," Harold finally said. I looked at him and nodded slowly. "Yes, you do." He let out a long breath, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a small notepad, the kind you keep in your pocket. He didn't open it, just held it in one hand while the other tapped it gently. "I wasn't supposed to hear it," he began. "I went to the garage during the party to get more chairs. That's when I heard Ethan and Vanessa." My stomach clenched. What were they talking about? Harold looked me dead in the eye. "You." My heart pounded in my chest, but I didn't interrupt. "They didn't know I was standing by the doorway," he said. "They were talking low, but I heard enough. The plan was to get you relaxed, get a couple of drinks in you, flatter you, make you feel loved and appreciated." I said nothing. My throat was dry. "They said something about timing it right," Harold continued. "That when you were in a soft state, they'd get you to sign a document. Ethan said it was a minor adjustment, just a temporary shift in the company's ownership so he could use it to leverage something with his real estate group. I stared at the kitchen table, my fingers gripping the edge. "He said you wouldn't fight it," Harold said quietly. "Not if you felt safe." I swallowed hard. "Did he mention the company by name?" Harold nodded once. "He called it your little empire. Said it was time it started working for both of you." My blood ran cold. I had spent the last 6 years building that firm from scratch. I hadn't taken a vacation in 3 of those years. Every inch of success came from my blood, sweat, and nights spent sketching designs until my eyes hurt. And now my husband, had planned to steal it while pretending to toast our daughter's birthday? I pushed my chair back and stood up. I didn't even realize I was shaking. "I'm sorry, Rachel," Harold said softly. "You don't have to be sorry," I muttered. "You warned me. You didn't have to. But you did." He looked down. "Ethan's my son, but I saw something in his eyes last night I didn't like, and I've seen men lose themselves chasing shortcuts. I've audited too many of them in my lifetime." I walked over to the window, staring out at the front yard. Leaves swirled in the breeze. Life outside was normal. Inside, my world had shifted. Harold stood slowly. "I don't want to be in the middle of your marriage, but I couldn't sit back and watch it happen." I turned to him. "What do you think he would have done if I hadn't left?" Harold hesitated, then said, "I think he would have smiled, handed you a pen, and made it all feel like love." That broke something inside me, because I believed him. He walked toward the door but paused before leaving. "Be careful, Rachel. They were both in on it. And if they think you're onto them, they might change tactics." I nodded. When he left, I locked the door behind him. Then I stood in the middle of my quiet house, trying to process it all. My best friend and my husband, planning something like that. Behind streamers and candles, behind my daughter's birthday cake. They smiled in my face, and I almost didn't see it. Almost. But now I did. Later that evening, Lily and I sat on the couch together, wrapped in a soft blanket. A movie played on the screen, but I wasn't really watching. My mind kept drifting, spinning through thoughts I didn't want her to see on my face. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Mom?" "Was Grandpa mad at Dad at the party?" I paused. Her voice was soft, but the question was too sharp for me to ignore. "What makes you ask that?" She sat up a little straighter. "I don't know. I saw him staring at Dad a bunch of times. Like, really staring." I muted the TV. My heart beat faster. "What else did you notice, sweetheart?" Lily bit her lip, thinking. "Vanessa kept whispering to Dad when she thought no one was looking. It was weird, like she'd stop talking whenever I got close." I turned to face her. "Did you hear anything they said?" She shook her head. "No, but they were looking at you. I think they were planning something. I don't know what, but the way they acted gave me a weird feeling." I tried to stay calm, but inside I felt a jolt. My 13-year-old daughter had picked up on it too. "And," she added slowly, "remember when I spilled lemonade and you went inside to get paper towels?" I nodded. "Well, Dad took something out of the drawer in your office. I saw him through the hallway mirror. It looked like a folder or something. Then he closed the drawer really fast when he saw me watching." I blinked. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Positive." That drawer was where I kept important company papers, stuff that wasn't meant to be shared, not even with Ethan. "He said he was just checking to see if the printer had paper," Lily said, "but I don't think that's true." I didn't say anything right away. I was trying not to show too much on my face. The last thing I wanted was to scare her or make her feel responsible for things she couldn't control. But I couldn't ignore what she was telling me either. "And one more thing," she added. "When I went to get more cake, I heard Dad tell Vanessa something like, 'Just follow my lead.' I don't think he knew I was standing there." I looked at her carefully. Did he seem angry? No, he was smiling, but not his normal smile. It felt fake. I pulled her closer and kissed her hair. She laid her head back down on my shoulder and we sat in silence for a while. Lily, I said gently, thank you for telling me. She nodded against my arm. I don't know what's going on, but it didn't feel right. That sentence stayed with me long after she fell asleep that night. It didn't feel right. That was the same feeling I'd had when Harold told me to leave. The same feeling I'd pushed down when Ethan poured me another glass of wine. The same feeling I ignored every time Vanessa brought up my company like it was something we could all just brainstorm about over coffee. And now Lily, my bright, sweet, observant daughter, had picked up on it too. I stood in the hallway outside her room for a long time after tucking her in, watching her sleep peacefully, her stuffed animal tucked under one arm. She shouldn't have had to notice any of this. She should have just been enjoying her birthday, blowing out candles, singing karaoke, opening presents, not decoding strange behavior between her father and my best friend. But she noticed, because she's smart, because she sees things, just like Harold does, and because deep down, something about that day had unsettled her too. I walked back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't cry, I didn't panic. I just thought, if Lily could see it, if Harold could hear it, and if I could feel it, then it wasn't in my head. This wasn't paranoia. Something real was happening, and I was no longer alone in knowing it. I stayed up that night staring at the ceiling, not out of fear, but out of anger. Not the kind that explodes and shouts. No, the slow, sinking kind that burns quietly in your chest. The kind that simmers when you start replaying every moment you dismissed. Every time you forgave something that should have been a red flag. I opened my laptop and typed Ethan Business Ventures into the search bar. Just to see. Just to remember. The list wasn't long, but the damage each one caused felt endless. The Miami condo flip. That was supposed to be our family legacy, remember? Ethan convinced me we needed to borrow from my business line of credit to get in before the big wave. He even got our neighbor to invest. 2 months later, the developer was sued, permits fell through, and Ethan swore it was bad luck. I covered the losses and kept my head down. Then came the crypto phase. Ethereum, Litecoin, some new startup coin that Ethan swore was about to explode. He drained our savings, bought in at the top, and the market crashed 3 weeks later. He called it a learning experience. I called it devastating. Still, I said nothing. I kept working, paid off the credit cards, focused on the business. Then there was the food truck. That one still made my stomach turn. He wanted to be his own boss. Said it was his passion. I co-signed the loan because he promised me he had a solid partner with restaurant experience. That partner ended up being arrested for skimming cash from another business. The truck was seized, the loan defaulted. My business credit took a hit. And each time, Ethan said the same thing. Just trust me. I did. Until now. Now I was looking at the truth, right there in my memory and on paper. A trail of failure and recklessness. And every single time, I was the one who had to fix it. But this time was different. Because this time, I wasn't just being asked to support his idea. I was being used, targeted. He was going to get me drunk, manipulate me, trick me into handing over shares of the very company I'd built, the only thing that kept this family afloat. And he had help. Vanessa, the one I told everything to, the one who sat on my couch and cried about her failed marriage, the one I trusted with Lily when I needed a break. They knew exactly what they were doing. I opened my business files and double-checked every folder, the contracts, the ownership documents, my registration papers. Everything was still there, untouched. But now I wondered how long it would have stayed that way if I hadn't left the party early. I opened a blank Word document and started writing. Every incident, every suspicious moment, the wine, the rushed conversations, the glances between Ethan and Vanessa, the way they'd tried to keep me just distracted enough to not see it. I called the file Timeline. I listed every failed venture, every loan I covered, every business loss I absorbed. I added the most recent, The real estate syndicate Ethan wouldn't shut up about. I didn't know exactly what his plan was yet, but I knew enough to be prepared. For once, I wasn't going to wait until I was cleaning up the mess. This time, I'd be ready before the damage was done. And as I typed the last note into the document, something shifted inside me. I wasn't scared anymore. I was awake. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who set up a camera in her own office, but there I was, kneeling under my desk, carefully angling a small, motion-activated camera I ordered online the same night I finished my timeline. If Ethan was willing to cross the line, then I needed more than just gut feelings and memories. I needed proof. I started with my email backups. Years of correspondence, invoices, contracts. I had it all organized. But I wasn't looking for business records this time. I was looking for slips, little moments, comments, anything that might confirm what Harold overheard. And after hours of scanning, I found one, buried in a forwarded message from Ethan. He'd sent me a friendly update about his investment group 2 weeks ago. Attached was a PDF. I had ignored it at the time, but when I opened it now, I noticed something strange at the bottom. With access to temporary collateral, even via spousal-controlled asset channels, participation can be fast-tracked. Spousal-controlled asset channels. That was me. I leaned back in my chair and let that sink in. He had already pitched the idea to someone, and he used my assets, or at least the illusion of having access to them, as leverage. I kept digging. 2 months ago, Lily had used my phone to record a school project, a pretend interview she did with me while I worked at my desk. I remembered how cute she was sitting in my chair pretending to be a journalist. But while looking through those old video files, I found one she hadn't mentioned. It was only 37 seconds long. The camera pointed at the ceiling. The phone must have been lying on my desk, recording by accident. But the voices were clear. Ethan, in a low whisper. She doesn't need to know. She just has to sign. One signature, and it's done. Another voice I recognized. Vanessa. And you're sure she won't read it? Then Ethan again, laughing softly. She never does. That's the beauty of it. My skin went cold. I played it again. I don't know when it was recorded. I don't know how Lily's phone picked it up, but there it was, undeniable. I copied it to my laptop, labeled it Voice Memo 1, and locked it behind a password-protected folder. Next, I checked the drawer in my office where I kept my original company documents. It was always neat and organized down to the last paperclip. But something was off. The folder wasn't in the same position. A few of the plastic sleeves were out of order. The bottom of the drawer had a scratch I hadn't noticed before, as if someone had pulled something out in a rush. Lily's words came back to me. Dad took something out of the drawer. He closed it really fast when he saw me watching. He'd been in here. I sat down and wrote out a checklist. Voice memo, suspicious email attachment altered drawer, unsolicited access to documents. Harold's verbal account, Lily's eyewitness observation. It was coming together. I wasn't trying to destroy anyone. I just wanted the truth in front of me, black and white. No more trusting blindly. No more hoping Ethan would eventually grow up and do right by us. I backed up the files to a USB and slipped it inside a book on my office shelf, a design portfolio no one but me ever opened. Then I told myself the same words I once told a client when she was scared to fire a toxic employee. Being prepared isn't paranoia, it's protection. I was done playing nice. This was no longer about just business or betrayal, it was about protecting myself and Lily from whatever came next. The first thing I noticed that morning was the silence. No birdsong, no footsteps from neighbors heading out for their early walks. Just stillness. It wasn't until I opened the front door, coffee in hand, that I saw it. My car sat a little lower than usual, tilted, almost like it was slouching. At first, I thought maybe it was the way it was parked, but something didn't sit right. I walked slowly toward it, dread building with every step. Then I saw it. The front tire on the driver's side was completely flat, not just deflated, slashed, a clean, sharp slice right along the inner edge. And when I checked the back tire, it was the same. I stood there for a long time, just staring. I've had flat tires before, nails in the road, a slow leak. But this was deliberate. I turned back toward the house, trying to think. Was it a warning? A scare tactic? A message? Harold's voice echoed in my mind. If they think you're onto them, they might change tactics. Until now, everything had been quiet. Subtle manipulations, whispers, setups. But this was different. This was bold. I called Harold. He answered on the second ring. I need you to check the cameras, I said. He didn't ask why. He just said, I'll be over in 20 minutes. By the time he arrived, I'd already moved Lily to the back of the house with her tablet and headphones. I didn't want her seeing the tires. I didn't want her feeling unsafe. Not if I could help it. We reviewed the garage camera footage on Harold's laptop, sitting at my kitchen table in silence. It was grainy and black and white, but the motion sensor had captured a figure moving through the side gate just after 3 a.m. The person was wearing a hoodie, head down, staying close to the fence line. The face wasn't clear, too dark, too far. But I didn't need to see the face. I already knew. No one else had a reason to do this. Harold leaned back in his chair. They're getting desperate. They think I'll back down, I said quietly. He nodded. Or that you'll get scared and hand them what they want just to make it stop. I looked at him. Then they don't know me at all. I walked into my office and retrieved the USB drive I'd hidden days earlier. The file was complete now. Voice memos, screenshots of emails, photos of the tampered drawer, Harold's written statement, and Lily's account of what she saw and heard. I'd even recorded myself reading a detailed timeline into my phone, just so there was a full audio log from my perspective. It was all there. I placed the USB into a padded envelope and sealed it. I'm sending this today, I told Harold as I walked back into the kitchen. He didn't ask to whom. He knew. Ethan's former investors, Vanessa's employer, the people they were trying to manipulate behind the scenes, the ones who still thought Ethan was just another charming guy with a pitch deck and a dream. They deserved to know who they were dealing with. I'll drive you to the courier myself, Harold said. Before we left, I peeked into Lily's room. She was still curled up on the bed, her face lit by her tablet screen, humming softly to herself. I smiled and closed the door gently. She didn't need to know what I was about to do. Not yet. I wasn't doing this out of spite. I wasn't even doing it for revenge. I was doing it because I had to. Because someone tried to trap me. And now they were trying to scare me. But what they didn't realize was, the more they pushed, the stronger I became. 2 weeks after I mailed the envelope, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Rachel? The voice said, low and cautious. This is Ben Carter. I used to be part of Ethan's Miami project until he vanished with everyone's money. I froze. Ben Carter, one of the original investors Ethan had burned years ago, the one who took out a second mortgage to join that doomed condo flip. I got your letter, he continued. I just wanted to say, thank you. You're not the only one who's been lied to. He wasn't angry. He was relieved and determined. That one call turned into 5 more, then 10. One by one, people started reaching out. People Ethan had used, manipulated, misled. Some had lost money. Others had lost jobs. A few, like me, had lost years of peace. Harold helped coordinate everything. The evidence was solid. Dates, transactions, screenshots, even voice notes I'd saved of Ethan boasting to Vanessa about getting Rachel out of the way just long enough. It was all out now, and once it started unraveling, it didn't stop. Vanessa was fired from her job. Her name had been tied to too many shady meetings and misrepresented partnerships. I didn't celebrate it, but I also didn't lose sleep over it. Ethan, on the other hand, Well, he tried to talk to me, called, texted, left voicemails full of fake apologies and desperate backpedaling. I didn't answer any of them. The last message he sent read, "I never meant to hurt you. I just needed a break, a win. You always had everything." No, I didn't have everything. What I had was resilience, discipline, a backbone he thought he could borrow and bend. But he was wrong. I was done being the backup plan. A week later, I sat with Lily at the kitchen table, helping her with her spelling homework when she looked up and asked, "Is Daddy coming back?" My heart clenched. Not because I missed Ethan, but because I knew she still didn't fully understand what had happened. "No, sweetie," I said softly, brushing her hair back. "Daddy made some really bad choices, and we're safer now." She nodded slowly, then went back to writing. Just like that. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. After she went to bed, I pulled out the letter, the one I hadn't opened until now. It had come 3 days ago. No return address. Just my name, written in Ethan's messy scrawl. Inside, there was no apology, no explanation, just a check, made out to me, for $150,000, and a single sentence on a torn scrap of paper. "This is all that's left. I'm sorry you saw who I really am." I folded the check and put it away. I didn't cash it. I didn't need his money. The next day, I walked into my office, opened a fresh file, and labeled it "Start Over." But this time, I wasn't doing it because I had to clean up someone else's mess. This time, I was rebuilding for me and for Lily. I called a lawyer, updated the business registration, moved my remaining assets into a protected trust. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of who might be smiling beside me while plotting behind my back. I was alone, but I was finally free. And I'd learned something important. When someone tries to take everything from you, it's not always about revenge. Sometimes, it's about remembering who you were before they convinced you that you needed them to survive. I looked in the mirror that night and didn't just see a single mom. I saw a woman who refused to break, even when the people closest to her tried to. And that was the real victory.